Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at an Echo CS271 top panel chainsaw. The customer complaint is that it won't start. So let's take a look inside the fuel tank. Looks like it's full of fuel. I don't see any water on the bottom of the tank. Filter looks alright. But the fuel feels a little tacky. And I think I smell bar oil. Let's look in the bar oil tank. That's empty. Now I can't think of any situation where the bar oil tank would be empty and the fuel tank would be full. But I don't smell fuel in the bar oil tank. I think he was filling it up with bar oil, put it in the wrong hole. Let's see if it starts. Well, it definitely doesn't start. Now, if he just dumped bar oil in the fuel tank, I mean, it would still pop or start or something, right? I got a feeling that he tried starting it, or at least priming it, after he put the bar oil in there. So if the bar oil tank is empty, in normal operation, you know, you should be able to run a full tank of fuel and still have a little bit of bar oil in the tank. But his bar oil was completely empty. So I'm guessing his fuel tank maybe was close to empty when he accidentally dumped the bar oil in there. And then if he primed it, I don't know. I can't really explain this one because there's nothing in the oil tank. Maybe he dumped the oil out after the fact. I just don't know. Regardless, we're going to go through this a little bit. I always look inside the cylinder and see what kind of condition the piston and cylinder are in, because if it's scored, you know, we're going to stop. So we're taking a scope and looking in here, and I've seen better. Now, it might be deceiving. You know, that could be a lot of oil that is making that those streaks in there. Maybe there's streaks and not scores or wear lines. But we'll check the compression. Yeah, we'll check for spark first. We got spark. So that's not the reason why it's not starting. But we are going to check the compression. You know, those cameras, they're wonderful. They allow you to look into places you can't see with the naked eye. But sometimes it's hard to decipher what you're looking at. So we've pulled on the cord until the needle stopped rising. And the needle landed on 145 pounds of compression. So whatever we saw in the cylinder, we're going to live with it and move forward on the repair. I'm going to treat this as a full tune-up and put a new spark plug in here. And we're going to gap it at 0.5 millimeter. I use NGK plugs, and I don't remember ever having to adjust the gap on a new plug. They're always right, but I periodically check them just to, you know, as a sanity check. I don't check every one by any means at all. Like I said, they're almost always right. In fact, they are always right as far as I know. So let's take a closer look in the carburetor here. We're going to start by removing the air filter base. You'll see that I'm using a Craftsman branded electric screwdriver. I really like the Craftsman name, and I grew up with Craftsman tools. I gotta tell you though, I'm not a big fan of that screwdriver. I don't like the power button. So we're gonna dump out this mix of fuel and bar oil. And there's nothing to dump out of the oil tank. And looking at it again, look how brown that fuel is. I don't see any water in the bottom of the funnel. But even just the viscosity of it, you can see the way it's moving around in that funnel. It's thick. And I can feel the oil in the fuel. You know, it feels sticky. Not like regular two-stroke mix. You don't feel anything. So we got the 2 screws from the air filter base out that hold the carburetor on. Now there's going to be a piece of throttle linkage. And instead of taking the whole handle apart to get at the linkage, we can kind of just flex this out of the way. And then remove our fuel line. Every time I take a carburetor off, I look in the intake. I'm kind of looking at the boot. I'm looking at the piston skirt on the intake side. Looking for wear or damage. So let's open up this carb and take a look and see what we got going on here. This is the fuel pump. And we have a little micro screen inside here. And it looks fine. I don't see anything, any debris or any scum or even oil. Let's look at the metering diaphragm. It's a little stiff. Now, I'm not saying that this is the reason that it didn't run. Oh yeah, there's oil in there. But, you know, it's getting to be so that my regular tune-ups almost always now include a new metering diaphragm, depending on when the last time they had it tuned up. I mean, if someone brings me a saw every season to go through it, that's not the case. But if I ask them when the last time someone had the carburetor off and they say never, it's getting a new kit. So first we're going to lay down the gasket for the metering diaphragm, and then the metering diaphragm itself, and then we'll put the cover on. And a lot of people might say, well, you're not really rebuilding a carburetor, you're not pulling the jets out and cleaning any of that. No, I'm not. Cleaning a carburetor is something I rarely have to do. If the thing sat forever, that's a different story, but if you're using this saw and it ran fine and now all of a sudden it doesn't, it's usually not because just a hunk of dirt went through it and it's keeping it from running. It's usually something else. Metering diaphragm, fuel pump, plugged microscreen, or something that's not in the carburetor. So this is the only fuel pump gasket that matched. So that's the one we're going to use. And you'll see on the edge of that gasket there is like a round, little knob that hangs out. And if you look at some of the other gaskets, they have a different shaped knob that hangs out. Some are triangles or squares or whatever. You know, usually those gasket and the pump or the diaphragm, they all match. So it's easy to pick the one you need. Alright, that's all we're going to do to the carburetor. Now I'm grabbing the throttle linkage and we'll get that fuel hose on there first. And we'll get that throttle linkage lined up in the carburetor. We're just flexing it out of the way.
Right there.
This is a lot easier to do when you're not trying to capture it on video. Just putting that out there. And you know, I'm not making a video on how to you know, work on this saw. I'm working on this saw and just capturing video. Big difference. I mean, I'm on the clock at work, and the boss ain't paying me to make YouTube videos. You know what I mean? He's letting me record, but I try not to waste any time with the recording process. And that's why you might not see, you know, good close-up shots of things. I'm just happy to get the footage that I actually get. So we got the carb back in there, the linkage is on, we got the fuel line back on. I don't like that fuel line. I don't like the way it's routed. And maybe I didn't take a good look at it before I took it apart. And I've been messing around here with some of these other black rubber Echo fuel lines. And they kind of are getting caught up with the throttle linkage. Just, it's not working out for me. I don't know if I'm routing it wrong or what. So I'm going to use a piece of this Tygon fuel line that's a little stiffer and I think more durable. And we're going to route that in there in place. We're going to get it cut to length. And then push the line onto the primer bulb. Be careful when you're using pliers and fuel line that you don't actually put a hole in the fuel line. Alright, we're gonna put some quality mix in here. But before I do that, I want to fish this filter out of here. And I know it's been sucking oil. And as part of a tune-up, we would replace the filter anyway. So let's see what we got. That's a better view. So the filter isn't like trashed, but it's pretty dark. And you see the difference in color between the new one and the old one. Now we'll get some fuel in there. And I mix my fuel 50 to 1. But, you know, that's a 1.25 gallon can. And I've got a line at the 1 gallon mark for mixing. But I never fill it to that line. So I'm somewhere between 40 to 1 and 50 to 1 on my mix that I keep on the bench. Alright, we're going to put the air filter holder back on and run the 2 Phillips head screws in here. Look at the way I'm holding that screwdriver to hit the button. I like the other battery screwdriver better. It's got a push button, single push button, and then forward and reverse selector, as opposed to this one which has a forward and reverse button. And I don't know why it's so much different in the feel, but I like the other screwdriver better. So everything looks pretty decent here. Let's pull cord and see if this thing's going to run. And if it does, then that's all I'm going to have for you on the Echo CS271T. It wouldn't start because there was bar oil in the fuel tank. Thanks for watching. Later.